this is such an exciting topic, and we've had so much interest in this. And I think, we have come such a long way with really understanding not only weight management, but total health. And for a long time, there was a lot of discussions about what role do our genes play versus our environment and the decisions that we make every single day. So we're going to really dig into that. Okay. All right. So again, welcome everybody. My name is Sherry Stoka, and I am owner and founder of Weightless MD and Wellness. I am joined by what I refer to as my partner in crime. Her name is Erica Gutierrez, and she's going to be fielding any questions that come through. So if you have any questions, and she's going to try to answer them, but we're going to definitely open this up for questions at the end as well. And other than that, the title of this presentation is Genetics versus Environment, which controls the scale. So let's get started. So I am just going to, so I can see my full screen. Okay, there we go. So the agenda for today is to discuss the environment's role in a healthy weight, how genetics play a role in our BMIs, crucial strategies for long-lasting weight loss, and steps to uncover your genetic and environmental identity related to your health. So I first always like to set the stage, and just some people might already know this, but weight loss is multifactorial, and we need to understand this because I think society and things that we hear, whether it's on the internet, commercials, it's all about, reducing your calories and exercising more, and that just is not true. And weight loss is more than that. And so these are some of the things that come into play. Obviously, stress and sleep, they're very, very important. We throw these words around a lot, but we have to really address them if it's something that's going on in your life that has kind of fell off the cliff. We live in a toxic world, and our bodies are not used to everything that we're exposed to on a daily basis. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Hormone imbalances is such a key to weight management, mental health, nutrient deficiencies. We live in a world right now where we are overfed and we are undernourished. Our food does not have the nutrients that it used to have. And then we're really going to focus on our gut and our genetics. So I like to start out just to kind of get us all on a similar playing field here and really define what the heck it means when we talk about the gut. So hopefully this makes sense to you. So if you look at the image to the left, you see the entire digestive tract. Well, almost the entire digestive tract. Your digestive tract starts in the mouth and then goes all the way down to the rectum. But you see here that in the stomach, you see the duodenum, jejunum, ileum. That's part of the small intestine. And then the large intestine is the colon. And within this system lives trillions of microorganisms. So as you can imagine, and as you can see here, if you kind of remember to like some of your, science classes, with pH. The stomach is very acidic. So a pH of 1 to 3 is a very acidic environment. So there are certain organisms that only can survive in that environment. And as you go downstream, as we say, it gets less acidic. So the small intestine has a pH of 6 to 7, and then you'll have a number of different organisms that can live there. And then you get to the colon, which is a pH of 7. And this is really where the most abundant, ecosystem is. There are just trillions of different strains of bacteria that live there. And just so to bring everyone to, again, a neutral place, is we have all of this, these organisms. And some of them are bad and some of them are super beneficial to our health. So it really is about creating this balance that keeps us healthy. So what happens over time and just living life is that this ecosystem, so the majority of these bacteria strains live in our intestines. So what happens is what affects that balance is a lot of different things. So obviously our genetics, it affects what that balance is to start, and also where you're from. Evolutionary wise, we were all predisposed to have and just adapt to our environment. So really where you're from plays a very big role. What also plays a very big role is how you entered this world. We talk, you probably heard, if you have children, or um, when you were younger, maybe you were breastfed, maybe you heard that you were delivered by cesarean, or was it a natural delivery? That is when you get the most beneficial bacteria from your mother. So that plays a big role in what all, what is all in this ecosystem. So then we get into more of the lifestyle factors. So our diet, of course, plays a huge role. Our ability, our digestive health, so our ability to go to the bathroom on a regular basis, our age, medications, antibiotics, that's another whole presentation on its own, so I won't get into that. Stress levels absolutely affect the balance of the ecosystem, and exercise. So as you can see, there are so many things that affect the foundation to the human body. So just to take this a step further, if you were to look closely into what is in our digestive tract, or our gut, our intestines, it is going to be full of trillions of bacteria. We are actually made up of more bacterial cells than we are human cells, believe it or not. And it's not just bacteria. I mean, we have viruses and fungi that live in our body, and that can be very normal. That's what keeps us alive. So this collection of microorganisms is referred to as the microbiome. So hopefully you've heard this term before. If you haven't, it's probably going to take a while for you. Maybe some people are taking a step back and saying, wait, what are you talking about? But this is honestly so important for people to understand, because it literally drives our health. Our organisms, or what we refer to as our microbes, they can weigh as much as 5 pounds, and collectively they can actually function as an organ in itself. And again, these organisms affect every system in the body. As you grow or as you get older, your microbiome changes. So you have to also somewhat change with what you encounter as you get older. What we know now is that the more diverse your species are, so you don't want just one or two strains of bacteria. You want many different ones. We definitely see an association with optimal health when you have a very diverse microbiome. So again, as you get older and as you encounter all of these insults to your gut when you're just living life, so whether it be diet or stress and sleep, you can imagine that this diversity is affected significantly. So again, just to reiterate, what affects this imbalance, this ecosystem that drives our health? Definitely genetics. You're predisposed at the beginning of life. If you are a person who eats a lot of processed foods or just has a poor diet overall, that is absolutely going to affect it. Your lifestyle habits, if you're getting 4 hours of sleep a night, it's going to affect it. if you have had, if you have digestive issues or gut issues, if you have inflammation, if you've had food poisoning, etc., that's going to affect the balance. Medications, just environmental pollutants. If you live near, if you're in a city and you're breathing that in every single day, that absolutely has an effect. And your mental health. And this is a big piece. And I think a lot of people they're not able to really understand how that does fit into the health of our gut. But trust me, it it's one of the most important pieces. Not only just what your thoughts are and what you tell yourself, but really what your outlook is on life as well. Okay, so essentially, what happens when things go wrong? So, in an ideal world, we are going to have a lot of really normal, healthy bacteria. So, they all play nice together, they all serve a purpose. These are typically referred to as bifidobacteria, or lactobacilli. So, what happens over time, due to these different environmental and lifestyle factors, is certain species and certain strains of bacteria begin to grow. And once they begin to kind of take over, then things really start to go downhill. This dysbiosis is really the beginning of many chronic illnesses. So you can see here, I mean, I'm not going to go through all of this, but since we're talking mainly about weight, dysbiosis, and we're going to talk more about why that happens, but it is one of the main reasons why we are, we have a society that is, I mean, it's the statistics are pretty dire. 75 to 80% of Americans are obese or overweight. And we really, especially just, at Weightless MD, we are really here to change those statistics because we know we can. We just need to get the information out there. So again, if you're reading through any of these, you might not think, oh, okay, how does your gut relate to liver disease or cancer? Oh, autoimmune is significant. It's so tightly correlated. So again, it all affects one another. Okay, so how do you know when you're out of balance? If if you're having digestive discomfort, that's kind of a no-brainer. So if you're someone who's struggling from constipation, bloating, gas, cramps, you have acid reflux, that is telling me when people come in and they're filling out our different forms, that right away I know something's going on. But there's other symptoms that people would never ever realize that it is an imbalance, it's a gut issue. So if you're having weight gain, uncontrollable weight gain, if you have fatigue or sleep issues, skin condition, oh my gosh, skin conditions, or like adult acne, that is typically a gut issue. Food sensitivities, mood changes. Again, I had mentioned autoimmune conditions, and sugar cravings are also just a sign to indicate that you are not in good balance. Okay, so we talked about the gut. So hopefully everybody understands that we are made up of trillions of bacteria. That is just the human body. And so how our genes come into play, we're going to dig into that. And really, I want you to understand where, we're always about digging to the deepest foundation so that long-term health and wellness is manageable and easier. So I just wanted to define a few things. Genetics. So genetics is basically the genes that you are born with. So these are not going to change in your lifetime. So there's a lot of genetic tests out there, 23andMe. There's, I don't know, I can't think of them. but you wouldn't have to do them twice. Things don't change. Your genes are your genes. So just kind of keep that in mind. Nutrigenetics basically means how you respond to certain nutrients based on your genes. Nutrigenomics is how your genes are expressed, and we're going to get into that, kind of put that on the back burner. And then epigenetics is how your behaviors or your environmental decisions or changes express certain genes. So if you can picture, if you can imagine, we're all born with a genotype. But our genes are like a light switch. They're either being turned on or they're being turned off. And that's where we really want to hone into how can we turn on the genes that are beneficial to our health, and how can we make sure that, say, the gene that expresses for cancer is turned off. Because when we're looking at genetics within our patient profile, we're looking at what we refer to as variants, something that has gone a little wrong. And when you have these variants, we're trying to adapt to that, so you can obviously create this plan for you to overcome some of the adversities or some of the struggles that you experience every single day. So how the gut and the genetics play a role in how they come together is that, again, your genes are your genes. These are not going to change. The microbes affect what genes turn on and what genes turn off. So you might have a very unhealthy gut, and that might be because you have an unhealthy balance of these microorganisms. And those organisms are going to turn, say, your inflammation gene on. You might have a lot of inflammation in your body. So that's what we really want, to get the body into this balanced state, so we don't have to fight against it, and we're working with what we know is going to give you the best outcomes. So one of the best things you can do to alter the ecosystem, the organisms that reside in your digestive tract or in your gut, is by the food that you eat. And obviously people are like, oh yeah, eat fruits and vegetables, it's so healthy for you. But it's sad that we really don't know why we eat it. I think people just think, oh, it has nutrients and there's fiber, but it feeds very specific organisms that keep us very, very healthy. So that's how all of this comes together, and this is why we focus on these main components of total health. And earlier in the slides, I had talked about, why weight loss is multifactorial. And there was a list of things, and it was hormones, mental health. There's, obviously, now I'm blanking on that full list. Your stress, your sleep. And the reason why we focus so much on genetics and gut health is because this is what drives and rebalances all of the other things. So if you focus just on, say, stress, or if you focus on your hormones, balancing your hormones, and you haven't addressed your gut health, or you haven't learned how to align your personal health with your genes, you will continue to struggle. You're just going to always be at a disadvantage, because the most foundational aspect has not been resolved. It takes between 184 and 1,840 generations of natural selection to undergo meaningful genetic change. So why do I write that on there? And I did not research that. I got that from somebody, but I thought it was very interesting. The reason why that is so profound and so meaningful to all of us is because we live in an environment that is very different from 100 years ago. So 100 years ago, we were eating whole foods. We were eating off the land. We didn't have, our stress was probably, trying to find food. But now our genes are the same, from 100 years ago. But now our genes are trying to figure out, how do I now adapt to this toxic environment, food that is not really food, where, processed foods, chemicals, additives, stress levels. I mean, people are under so much stress just trying to survive. That in itself affects genes. So my point is that our life has changed so much. Our genes have remained the same, and our body is trying to adapt all the time to this. So we are always talking to our patients about, to give you the advantage is understanding what your personal needs are, so that you don't have to, there's no guessing or trial and errors, moving forward. So really understanding that concept is important. So let's dig into weight management and genetics. What does the science tell us? Well, what we do know is there are specific genes that actually regulate the how we digest food, our satiety levels, and our hunger. There's specific genes that regulate adipogenesis, which is fat production and storage. How are we someone that stores fat, or are we someone that burns fat? Also inflammation and adipokines. This is, again, inflammatory fat cells. And I read something, and that kind of stuck with me, because if you are someone who is more prone to having inflammatory fat cells, it is very hard to burn those fat cells. So keeping that in mind, that's why it is real when people do struggle sometimes. How you burn energy, or how you burn calories at rest and at exercise. And there are genes that basically regulate your weight gain or weight loss resistance. So this is a study. This is obviously a study done on mice. A lot of the original studies were done on mice, but I will get to human studies. But this is actually this is a very important piece to just overall research in how certain genetics play a role in our weight. And some of you may have heard of the leptin gene. So leptin is a hormone that controls hunger. So in this particular mouse study, they found that when there was an absence of this leptin hormone, or this leptin gene, the mouse did not feel full from eating. So the mouse did not know when to stop. And we hear that. We hear that when we're working with patients. They say, I'm hungry all the time. And so that just leads you to think, well, there could be some type of genetic predisposition. So obviously the mouse to the left did not have the leptin gene. And again, when you're doing a mouse study, everything else is controlled. So there wasn't like the mouse got more food and that type of thing. So this was a very significant study. And then they also looked at epigenetics. So if you remember epigenetics, that is more of how your environment affects your gene expression. So if the genes are turning on and off. So in this particular study, they fed a mother a very healthy diet with a lot of nutrients. So, and then what they found later on is that the smaller mouse, obviously small mouse, was fed the high nutrient diet and did not have a weight problem. The large mouse was born to a mother who was fed a deficient diet in calories and did not receive the nutrients that were necessary, and the mouse became obese. So again, this just demonstrates that how much diet plays a role in your overall propensity to be obese later. So this is actually a very, very interesting study. In 2005, it was a study on 154 Japanese men. So essentially what they did is they had 154 men who had a BMI of 27. They put all the men on 1,600 calories for 24 months. They were asked to incorporate 20,000 steps every single day. And from what I understand, they complied like 100%. Well, maybe not 100%, but it was very close. So what the results were that 24% of the men lost weight in 6 months and maintained for over 18 months. 23% lost over the 6-month period, but then they eventually gained the weight back. 39% lost the weight, but it took longer, so it took the full 2 years, and 14% did not lose any weight despite following this particular plan. So this was so insightful to the genetic world, because what this is telling me is that, okay, the 14% that did not lose, it's likely because the diet was not the diet for them, or the exercise regimen was not the exercise regimen for them. So this is where we really can get deeper into, we're all about personalizing health, and we're learning more and more every day. So that, and then also as part of that was the scientists noted that participants in the study who had similar weight loss response shared similar genes. So again, genetics play a role. We obviously know that for sure. So what you see here is what we refer to as genetic variances or single nucleotide polymorphisms. These are just variations in your genotype. And now we know that there are specific SNPs, we refer to as SNPs, that cause a number of things related to weight and weight management. So this particular SNP, if you have it, you have weight loss resistance, or you're more prone to rebound weight gain. MC4R, increased appetite or snacking behavior. PLIN is increased risk for fat storage or slower fat breakdown. The next one, if you have this one, may lead to binge eating or addictive behavior. FTO puts you at risk for being overweight if you are not exercising. So if you have this particular SNP, you definitely want to incorporate exercise in your life. So the cool thing is that now we can identify certain genetic variances and really support and help and overcome some of those adversities. So I just wanted to touch on the strategic weight loss, because when Eric and I were kind of putting this presentation together and we were digging into a lot of the research, we were like, well, we're able to overcome these genetic variances because with the programs that we develop, we're able to get people to lose weight. Now, we do that very strategically with certain programs, but I think it's important to realize that you have to know what you're doing in order to lose weight. Now, I'm not saying we get everyone to lose weight and then they keep it off. The ones that are more resistant, we're working with them for longer periods of time. But we have been able to develop different programs that essentially when you're trying to lose weight, you have to focus on these fat resistant cells. And this is what people really miss. It's a big missing piece because we have fat resistant cells. The brain doesn't even recognize these fat stores. They're tucked away and they just stay there. So that's why people will lose weight to a certain point, because you have normal fat reserves. So you'll go through that and then it stops because you haven't utilized the more difficult resistance, which, visceral fat is one of the common resistant fat stores. So we have strategies that actually can mobilize and break down that fat so the body can start to burn it. And then, obviously with the people who really, really struggle, we're digging deeper into, okay, let's look into what could potentially be going on. So nutrigenomics, again, we know that there are certain nutrition related things that affect our genes. Nutrient deficiencies will affect certain gene expressions in the negative way for sure. There's definitely been a positive effect of eating less or eating less frequently. So intermittent fasting, we're big into intermittent fasting. That can have a very positive effect on gene expression. And the Mediterranean diet has been shown to have a really positive effect on gene expression. But here are some other things that play a huge role. Like we said, stress, smoking, drugs, medications. Oh boy. Yeah. I mean, this plays a huge role. Environmental factors, your age, just your life experiences, your virus exposure. If you've had COVID, your gene expression has been affected by that and just your overall bacterial overload. And I will say this, people who are on this call, we're all hypersensitive now to, just killing everything, killing sanitizer, everything. And while I understand we have to be safe and we have to be smart, but this over sanitation, if you think about it, just like antibiotics, it doesn't differentiate. I mean, you have a microbiome on your hand, you have bacteria, and you're killing all of the healthy stuff every time you put sanitizer on. So these are opportunities for us to really educate, because it's such an important overall part of just a healthy body. So what would be a refreshing approach? So really what we're all about is getting in sync with your body. So I always say that I feel like people are always just fighting against their own body. They're forcing themselves to do extra work. They're running around rampant. They're not getting enough sleep. They're eating foods that they probably shouldn't be eating. So by really understanding what's going on in your gut and really understanding what your genetics are, it takes the guesswork out of it. I mean, it will tell you so much about, not only about your eating regimen, your supplement regimen, your exercise regimen. Should you be, because exercise can be a stress too. I actually have to have some of my patients, slow down because their genes tell them that it's more of a stress on their body when they do the HIIT exercises. So that's what we're really trying to help you understand is knowing your foundational health. So a roadmap to a healthy body and a healthy weight, obviously. I think I said that. Your genetics, your gut, personalizing your plan, because once you have this information, then you're able to really develop a diet that works for you, an exercise regimen. Mindfulness and meditation is just not discussed enough. Oh my gosh, it just is not. Supplements, I mean, let's be honest, that's kind of an area that I feel a little passionate about. I just I wish we could reach more people because of just the retail shelves and kind of the crap that's put on there. But that's another topic. Detox is huge, and this is beyond just doing like a colon cleanse or a juice cleanse. Detoxification of the body is a very sophisticated process, and it oftentimes needs to be done on a somewhat regular basis, because it really can be a game changer. And really just this, fitting in all of these components is setting you up for success. And just a little bit about me, I think there are quite a few people on this call tonight that are new to Weightless MD. So I'm Sherry, I'm in the middle. And Erica, who's also on this call, is on the left, and Kimberly is on the right. So we didn't have everyone. We didn't have a picture with everyone. So this is just the three of us. Kimberly's one of our dietitians. We're all dietitians, but we practice in a very different way. And so our claim to fame is, we are the only medical weight loss clinic that is owned and founded by integrative dietitians and nutritionists. So we understand that food is the foundation, and we understand how the body works and how you have to rebalance the body in order for long-term weight loss to happen. We also develop all of our programs. We are constantly researching, coming up with new things, and we're experts in weight loss because it is literally all we do. We're a little obsessed with it. So that's a little bit about us. And I am going to open this up for some questions. Okay. There's a couple coming through. How do I find out about my gut health and my genetics? So the really cool thing is that there are so many awesome tests now. We are actually also a full lab, and we do a ton of different specialty testing. We do a genetic test, and we also do a microbiome test that is so comprehensive it will blow your mind when you read these results of what it tells you. So that's an option. There are many companies out there that offer certain tests, but if you are interested in learning more about it, you can definitely call us. You can see on the screen that you can actually book a one-on-one call if you have more questions as well. So what type of programs, or how do you know you're targeting visceral fat or abnormal fat stores? So that's actually a really good question. Visceral fat is kind of the deeper belly fat. And if you are losing inches around your waist, then it's a pretty good indication that you're getting to the visceral fat. And using them. Oh, the type of programs. So again, just by calorie restricting or over exercising, it's not going to touch it. And so that's kind of what people keep trying to do, and it doesn't work. So you have to be very strategic about it. Okay, let's see. What are the top 3 things you suggest for overall health? Okay. So I think number 1 is you have to have a positive, you got to have a good head. You got to have a good head on your shoulders. You have to, kind of look at things in a positive way. You have to have good relationships, good family relationships and things like that. I think that's so important. Oh my gosh, it's so important. And I think if there's anything you can do is really just start eating, regular food, whole foods, staying away from the fast food or the processed foods, the aisles that have things are in boxes. If you can either cook cook as much as you can at home, or there's a lot of different companies out there that will send you prepared whole organic fresh foods, for the busy people. I've tried them all. We're working with one company right now. I think that is so important. And movement. And what we know now is, and this is actually what I have. It took me a long time to learn this because I played professional soccer. I played Division I college soccer, and so I trained all the time. And when I went from doing that much excessive exercise to then being a normal person, I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I maintain my weight when I was training 3 to 4 hours a day, and now I'm maybe doing 45 minutes to an hour? Is that, and I was heavier then, believe it or not. So what we know now is that exercise does not need to be excessive. It can be literally going for walks. It can be doing a 20 to 30 minute exercise a couple of days a week. But again, knowing what your genetics want you to do. So really doing what your body feels good doing, but getting some type of movement or activity is. All right. I think that is it. If you guys have any other questions after, you can definitely email admin@weightlessmd. And again, if you are interested in booking a one-on-one just to learn a little bit more about some of the different options that we have, we would love to talk to you.